Welcome back to Old Guy REI. Today, we're continuing the Meet the Investor series, and I have some very special guests today, Kenny Wong and Jen Tam, who've been part of the ORAC community for since the beginning, right? And I really appreciate you guys taking the time to chat with me today because I know how busy you are. And um, I think one of my first questions for you today was, um, what originally steered you toward real estate instead of things like stocks? I think, Kenny, you dabble in stocks of some kind, or you have some other investments of some kind. What triggered the
Yeah.
real estate idea?
So actually, before real estate, it was stocks. During 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 the pandemic when it first started, we both Jen and I we were worried about okay, what's our financial future going to be? I mean, COVID triggered that pretty much for everybody. So I started dabbling into stocks and then looked up YouTube videos. That's when I first found out about Graham Stephan and Meet Kevin. And then I decided to go down, okay, what are their first videos? And then I saw they were all real estate. And I say, oh, okay. I put two and two together. They made their money with real estate. Then they started dabbling with stocks. So I decided, okay, forget stocks. Let me go into real estate. So that's how I got into real estate.
That's how the thought
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
And so when Kenny mentioned that, Jen, were you just on board automatically, or what were your thoughts at first?
So taking a step. So first of all, it's an honor to be with you on your show. Want to say that. And I think a step further back is that, I think Kenny and I have always had that real estate bug. Like we were always interested. I would say even like when we started working, we were always interested. Like Kenny and I, I think it's a funny story, but when we were dating, um, we wanted, and then like an opportunity to buy a house came down. I wanted to buy it. Like I think just growing up, my parents have always thought about real estate, but not scaling, right? Like they always knew that American dream was to at least get your primary. So when there was an opportunity to buy a primary, I actually wanted it. Kenny and I were still actually just dating. And I think he was a little bit hesitant because we weren't married and we were just dating and then this whole job thing. And I literally told him, like, let's buy it. And if we break up, we'll just rent it and we'll split the rent. I like literally I don't know if Kenny remembers that, but I always knew I wanted to own at least my primary, right? And then if I owned an extra one, which my parents did at some point in time, I thought that was a check of success story. So I think real estate was always in my mind, and I think Kenny, but I don't think we ever thought we could do more than just a primary and then maybe plus a rental. So I think that's always been something that was in the back of my mind, our minds. We just didn't think that we could do it. So come so when come 20, like around COVID, Kenny and I were actually working at the same place. So that was a risk already. Then our company sent everybody home. And that was another risk. And then the third thing that happened that triggered it was that we had two little kids, and my youngest was only 9 months old. And I tell this story a lot. In college, Kenny and I could eat ramen all day, ramen, spam, bread all day, and we'd be okay. When you have a kid in the picture, you have to get them fresh milk and fresh fruit. That's what triggered us to be really scared. The company had shut down, sent everybody home. It was a small company. We actually thought that it would close and we both would be out of jobs and we would not be able to support the kids. And that's what actually triggered us to be like, hey, we need to make sure that we find ways that where if that were to happen, we wouldn't rely on that, or we would have some buffer to find new jobs, right? To support the family. Because now it's not about us anymore. Now it's about the kids. I think that's what really triggered it. And we just went everywhere. And I'm not as smart as Kenny, so I just tell him the problem and hope he fixes it. So he looked into stocks, which we had never dabbled into. That's how financially illiterate we were. Working in Silicon Valley, you think, oh, we know about RSUs, we know about stocks, we know about diversifying. I don't know about Kenny, but I would say I knew nothing about that. My head was just down working and trying to climb the corporate ladder and think that was successful. So I think that's when we truly started looking into stocks and how that could better our future. And yeah, that's when he started doing the like the digging and figuring out these influencers. And I also tried to find influencers. So that's the first time I found Bigger Pockets in 2020, 2021, which is probably ridiculous to a lot of people, right? Because it's been around for a while. Um, and just going down that rabbit hole and thinking, listening to everybody and following everybody and believing everybody. And that took a while to hone down and find people like Zuber, right? I actually found Nick first, and I was showing Kenny like, hey, there's going to be a crash. Let's wait for that. Like literally that's, and then some, because of the algorithm, it somehow popped Zuber up. But I was actually following Nick first, and I showed Kenny Nick. I'm like, let's wait. Let's buy in Texas because it's going to crash. And Kenny's like, this guy's garbage. And I'm like, no, he's on YouTube. We have to trust him. And that's actually how it started. And that's actually how I found Zuber, through this Crash Bro that I for a second believed in. And if Kenny wasn't there, I'm very thankful for Kenny, because if Kenny wasn't there and said this guy's garbage, I would have said like, this guy's the guy I need to follow, and waited even longer, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just listening to you, I think we have quite a few similarities in our journeys, because like Kenny mentioned, Graham Stephan, when I started doing research back then in 2019, you guys know my story, because I didn't have any savings, being self-employed all these years like you, Jen. I was just working and living day to day. But when I came to that realization, it it struck me. It really made me panic, because I'm like, oh, Social Security isn't going to be the way, and so going down that kind of investment rabbit hole, like you did, Kenny, and then finding Zuber and like you, we had tried real estate back in the early 2000s, that, and we went in head first, not knowing a thing, and that ended really badly. But then coming around to 2019, I was going down that journey too, but I realized that wasn't going to do it fast enough for me, right? I was already 57, somewhere around there. So the real estate, I saw Brendan Turner and David Green doing an interview, and what David Green was going through really hit me and made me think it was possible for us to pick up some properties. So, and then we decided to go the turnkey route because it was less expensive for us to get in. When did you buy your first property, your first investment property?
Mm-hmm. So our first property we bought, I think was it 21. At least as the intentional investment. So I guess to go back to when Jen said, her goal was to get a primary, and then if we get a +1, we're successful. We had a family friend that got into an unfortunate circumstance because they had bought during the peak of, I think, 2006. They end up leveraging their primary on one of those adjustable rate mortgages, and then so they got into a pickle. They asked if we can buy the house and they'll rent it from us. So just trying to help, we did that. So that was back in 2013. So I guess that's one of the things that we were lucky with that had happened. So that's actually where we got our seed money to start investing intentionally back in 21. We were able to take advantage of the low interest rates to the cash out refi.
Okay. And when we first started joining the group and everything, because we started buying turnkeys, we were in a bunch of different markets, and people thought that was nuts. But you guys are not just in one market, right?
Yeah, we're nuts too.
Yeah. I don't.
We're nuts too. Yeah, I think so we started so intentionally, right? So intentionally we started and Kenny's right, we did a cash out refi because we had so much equity in that second home from the family friend. That's another a crazy thing too. We in because it was a family friend and we didn't know what we're doing. I think we bought that in 2013. We didn't up rents for like 10 years. so
Yeah.
so let's not tell Dion that. But intentionally, and was that 2021, Kenny, or
Yeah, it
20?
was 2021.
2021. So from that
Yeah.
cash out refi, we took that and we started, we wanted to stay in California because we only knew California. So we bought a home in Sacramento in 2021. And then we wanted to get his brother-in-law involved. So, but he was a little bit too scared to do it on his own, but he probably could have. So we split that. We bought another one and partnered with him, which is probably another mistake, right? In hindsight, because he could have done it himself and it's probably not good to kind of commingle stuff. So I think in retrospect, that was my doing, pushing Kenny like, hey, let's get him in. But in retrospect, we probably shouldn't have done that. So that's there's 2 and 1.5, let's say, in Sacramento. And then I think that's when we realized we're gonna run out of money really fast, even with the cash out refi. So then we decided to look elsewhere, right? So we started traveling, like a explorer, started traveling east. Then, you know, we're in Silicon Valley, right? So we started like Googling where's where are tech companies going to be built, right? Like literally just that. It was ridiculous. And then, but we did some metrics as well. So we didn't just do just Googling. We wanted to look at the like population growth, the job growth, metrics like that, websites that provided that. And so we went to then our third one is in Rio Rancho in New Mexico because Netflix is there. So they were streaming. and then also there we where there was an Intel, right, Kenny? Was it
There's an
yeah.
Intel plant there too.
And we knew that like, chips dependency on Taiwan is gonna, they were trying to come back with Trump. So we're like banking on that. So we're just trying to follow tech. So then we went to Rio Rancho. And then where else did we go, Kenny? We went to Texas. Yeah, we're in a couple of markets. Yeah, we're in a couple of markets.
Yeah, we went to Texas. We also went to Georgia following some metrics that we found from Neil Bawa was teaching you how to figure out markets to go. So we were chasing markets. And then I think we stopped when we settled in Texas after we found Zuber.
Yeah. And then we're like, okay, well, people, we were trying to be smart and think in 10, 15 years, people can't afford Texas. Like they can't afford the Bay Area. Where are they going to go? They're going to go to Oklahoma. So let's buy in Oklahoma. So that was when I think we had found Zuber, but I think we were still just doing the daily financial, right? And not like really honing down on focus. I think with the Zuber, it was like, oh, W-2 worker, one rental at a time. So like those concepts we picked up, but I don't think we picked up like the discipline we started, or Kenny started, I'm not disciplined. So Kenny started to pick up, but I think the focus part, I don't think we settled on yet. So we were still going everywhere and trying to figure out, how to best, better ourselves for our future. And that's kind of like the STR thing that came into play as well. Right. So yeah. We're in a lot of markets as well. I don't know who has more markets, you or us, but I think we're close.
I think we sold one of our properties recently, and so I think we're down to Wisconsin, Indiana, and Missouri. We were in 4, now we're down to 3.
Okay, so we're probably more. I think if you count, we're in 6. But but like trying to really focus on just one. Yeah, in Texas, but we scattered to like 6. Yeah.
And that first one that you purchased from the friend that was here in California?
Yeah, the one, back in 2013. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And most of your stuff is short term. Do you have any long term?
No, I think most is long term. Yeah.
Yeah, most is long term. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we jumped on that. We jumped on the STR bandwagon because we bought we have 2 in the Smokies in Tennessee, and then 1 in Branson, Missouri. So they're all vacation towns, and that was purely to try to help with the taxes, right? The STR loophole that we found out about, that was probably also from Bigger Pockets. Like Avery Carl came on and talked about that. We thought about other ways, right? Like, because we can't claim rep status because we're full-time W-2.
Mhm.
We're not entrepreneurs, so we can't, we won't, or can't, we're not capable of doing a business. So we just couldn't figure out a way um to do it when everybody else was doing it, like that FOMO thing, right? And being a little bit more financially literate, like we felt like we weren't playing the game correctly and taking advantage of everything that other people were. We had been paying taxes throughout, for like 18 years or whatever, right? So that was the only way we thought of to be able to help with that. Yeah.
And you do have two daughters. What role is having them done for your decisions to pursue real estate? Is that one of the main reasons, or was just financial freedom or independence the main goal overall?
I think well, as what Jen mentioned back then in COVID, I think they were the main reason why we got into the rabbit hole of investing. Is because like it was just me and Jen. I mean, we could survive off of very little, but having to worry about feeding them, sheltering them, making sure that they're okay regardless what happens to our job. I think that's they're basically our why we started investing. Um, but then as we got on this journey, learning about time freedom and all that, and being able to spend time with them, it was also just an added bonus to pursue.
Yeah, I would say the same. It's very cliche, right? But I think when I was working, I really tried to like prove myself in this men high tech corporate world. And when I got pregnant, people would tell me your life will change. And I'm like, no, it won't. I will prove you wrong. And I will be here for 16 hours a day. I will prove you wrong. I could do everything, be a mom and be a worker, and don't doubt me just because I'm a woman. And then I tried to do that. I went back to work. Like I literally had my kid and I was like answering emails like right after. Kenny remembers that at the hospital. He thought I was crazy, but it was me trying to prove everybody that I could do it. And then when COVID hit, how unfortunate it happened to like so many people negatively, but how it changed my perspective. I was home for like 3 months with my 9-month-old and I like absolutely loved it. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I could be with them every day, I would love it. And it was insane how that completely changed me. And so when, we heard all the stories about people retiring and being home and time freedom, that was like the first time in my whole entire life of being an adult that I said, I want that. Because before I was like, I do not want that. It's funny, is it Intel or Yahoo? Melissa Myers, there was an article when I was pregnant that she got pregnant and then she made the staff open up a office next to her and it became a nursery so she could have her kid there and come back to work and it's insane that I say this now, but I told my boss and I told Kenny, I'm like, I want that. I want my office and then I want my kid right next to me. And then COVID hit and I realized I don't want that. I want to be with them. I want to raise them right. I want to be there for them. And that's kind of why I am still doing it today. When we were watching these Bigger Pockets, it was so crazy. Like they were saying you could retire right away or in 10 years. I talked to you about this, right, Frank? And I asked Kenny, like he's some crystal ball, like, can we do this in 10 years? This is like 5 years ago. And he's like, yes, right? We can do this in 10 years. So I was thinking my daughter's like, 3. So she'll be like 13, she'll be, what is she like? She'll be 15 or 13 and I can still like make a lot of time with them and mold them and sculpt them into like, great human beings. But every year, Kenny shifts that timeline by a year. So I'm like, wait, you're tricking me. Every year, I'm like, when can we retire? He's like, in 10 years. Every year for 5 years now. He's like, in 10 years, right?
More years.
Yeah. So it's shifting. So I've had to, since then, kind of reset what I'm actually trying to do. Like, what am I trying to do now? I still have to figure that out because every year, Kenny shifts my retirement by a year. But I would say initially it was to be there when it still mattered and when they still liked us, and really just be there for them, because we had to like, I would say our parents were middle class, right? And they were never there. They were just working. And it's kind of amazing how I was even able to pass high school and college with not great grades, but just even making it because they never were there. And they today, you talk to them, they'll blame themselves for not being great parents. But I always tell them, you just put food on the table, and that was enough, right? So we want to do more, right, for that next generation. So I would say long-winded. Initially, it was for the kids, and now I don't know what it's for, but it's still for the kids. But I don't know what that outlook, that future looks like, or what I want to accomplish with them. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's some reason. You mentioned you don't know what the reason is, but there's got to be something in there that keeps you going, that's strong enough to keep you going towards that goal. I think that's really great. Yeah. I think, Jen, you have a newer position, right? You mentioned starting a new job, but what are both of your W-2s? What type of work is that?
So I work for high tech, more on the operation side. Um, so uh, you can say like a project manager, a program manager is essentially what I do now, but it's always been in operations in the high tech field.
Yeah, and I'm a hardware engineer where I design, PC boards.
Okay. Wait.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you mentioned that you guys worked together for a bit. When Cynthia and I met, we both worked there in Milpitas at an electronics company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard that before, but she came in as my boss.
I heard.
Yeah. And she still is today.
Kenny, what would you say? No.
We were in different departments, but I don't know. You were in charge of a lot of things, so everyone listened to you.
Yeah. And it's good to be the boss's pet, right?
Yeah.
Very similar stories, yeah.
Yeah, we do have a lot in common. It's funny. So with the girls, with your young family, do you manage all of your properties yourselves?
The long terms we give it to a property manager. Yeah, the only ones we manage are the short terms and our two midterms. Yeah.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I think recently Jen shared pictures of, I think it was at one of your short-term rentals, and somebody had talked about the deck looking rough or something. So you got
Yeah.
all that done.
Mhm.
How has that been hiring people? Have you been able to find good people to work with in those remote areas?
I think the Smokies, yes, because there's a big it's just a vacation town. So handyman contractors are always needed, but getting consistent people to come back, because they get so much business, they don't even need to respond to you.
No.
So getting them to come out is hard, right? And getting good ones to come back to you are hard. They rather go to somebody that's consistent and gives them like a lot of work or like big jobs. So that's been hard. There's like forums that I go to that talk about like recommendations. I try to do that. Um, but if you were to ask me in the Smokies, do I have one guy that I can go to for stuff? I would say no. But they have with short term, they say there's two things that you need: a cleaner and a maintenance person. So the cleaner that we have, it's a bigger company and they actually have a maintenance on staff, right? So that's good. It's bulked in. But they won't do the harder things, right? So it's okay. And if I have a company that I go to for harder things in an emergency, but they charge you an arm and a leg, so you just have to pick your poison in that case. In Branson, we only have one, and I think we've only launched it for like a year, so I'm still trying to build the team there. We have a cleaner; they're not good, and then unfortunately, the handyman is with the cleaner, and he's okay. But I feel like if I let go of the cleaner, I'm gonna have to. I'll lose my handyman as well. So, but like I would like to say that maybe there's a lot that's there. I mean, I don't feel like we're the best operators because we do not have bandwidth. And I know that could be a very good excuse, but I literally am exploding from every seam that I have. So I'm sure there's a lot out there that if I had the time and capacity to find it and build a better one, I could. But I literally am just trying to like survive and not sink. So whoever I can find, I know that I'm getting ripped off left and right. I say I because I run the front side. Kenny's the numbers guy. But when people are texting me that there's an issue and I'm in a meeting for my corporate job, my W-2, and I just do a quick text and whoever literally responds to me, I have them take care of it. Cause I sometimes I go to the bathroom and I do my text and try to find a vendor. It's pretty crazy, right? Like any second I get, I just do it. And so therefore I know I'm not getting the best rates and best price, but I'm just getting whoever is willing to come and take care of it for me. Yeah.
It seems like that seems like a lot of pressure for going 5 or 6 years you've been doing it, right?
Yeah.
And but it looks like from what Kenny and I were talking about earlier, you have a new venture. Is that in one of the states that you currently own in?
Yeah, that's in the Texas market we're in.
Okay.
So yeah, we're well, just me. I'm only looking in our Texas market.
I look everywhere. I still look everywhere. Yeah.
And Kenny, you mentioned that's actually a new build. That's something you haven't done yet, right?
Not in this market. Actually, our Branson one was a new build.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I guess this is our second new build, but it's the first in our market that we're gonna try to launch as a midterm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And some of the challenges that you were just mentioning, like even though it's a new build, there are some issues already with the kind of work that they're doing that you have to dig into a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, we just recently got the homeowner's inspection. So yeah, there were a couple items that the inspector pointed out, told us that we should have to build or remedy these things. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of my mom bought a new build back in 2007 in San Antonio, and that builder was pretty good. There were a couple of little issues before she took over, but in general, it was a pretty good property. And I think you guys know she passed in 2018, so she didn't really get to realize, the real benefits of owning that property for a long time, and hopefully she would have been able to retire with that help. But when we ended up selling it because I was the executor of her estate, and there were other people that she had named in her will, so we needed to sell it and disperse the funds that way. But at the time, I think it had doubled in price, and I struggled with that too, because back then I didn't really understand. We weren't investing ourselves yet, and staying on top of the property manager. The property manager just left the rent where it was, and I had to go in and do the research and say, hey, we're like $200 below market. Shouldn't we do something? And they're like, oh yeah, we'll look at that and we'll get it done. But you mentioned financial literacy earlier, and I can't tell you how much more we know now since we started again in 2019. That has helped us, and we have more options now. When if you guys could go back before you bought your first property, what would you tell yourselves to watch out for?
I think for now, I think we would say like don't take your time, right? I think we grew a little too fast. That was probably a mistake. I don't think we got into a lot of trouble, right, Kenny? But I think it was stressful, and we probably stretched ourselves more, even like mentally, right, than we had to. the money probably at one point in time. So I would, and then with time, when the deals did come, we couldn't do it because all our money were tied into properties that probably weren't as great of a deal. So I think, and we talked about this before, that um, we would not have grown the way we grew, right? Right, Kenny? Is that kind
Yeah.
of where you stand? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I would have slowed down. Also, not jumped to every market. I would have just
Okay.
focused on one market, and maybe we would have just stayed in Sacramento. Um, but at least have a focus there. In this way, when we find the great deals, we can actually pounce on it because we would have had the capital.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think it's a funny story. I got laid off, right? Or I asked to be laid off or whatever. Right, Kenny. And then we took that fund,
Hmm.
right? Cause it was struggling already. I knew I needed to move on, for like the kids and stuff like that and get more stable income. But like I had a 401k because I had been with that company for a long, long time, like 15 plus years. And then we took that money, we bought a STR, right? Which was,
Yeah.
I think in hindsight, we wouldn't have done that because we got penalized for it, right? And then,
Yeah, we took the 10% penalty hit. I think, yeah, we ended up having to pay some taxes because this was also the year where we didn't get 100% bonus depreciation. It was already tapering off.
yeah. And then,
Yeah.
that year we launched two STRs, right? We thought
Yeah.
that would help with taxes, which was a mistake as well. Because
Yeah.
picking up two at one time, oh, that's another lesson, right? Don't take more
Yeah.
than one project at a time.
Yeah.
Because we took two at a time and we ended up pushing the timeline I'm snail pace. So we ended up pushing it so much further to launch it. And that's money bleeding month over month because we have to pay out of our own pocket, right? For the mortgage, right? For two, right? So I think that was also a mistake. So not growing so fast, like being a little bit, especially for me, being a little bit more patient. And then only Kenny, only one market. That doesn't apply to me, maybe. Yeah.
Um, Moving forward, do you think you'll concentrate more on short-term or long-term rentals?
I think we want long term. I think short term
Yeah.
is because we feel like we have to. Even the one in Texas, this new build, we're talking about midterm, and I'm literally saying, Kenny, do we have to do a midterm or can we do a long term? And even if I don't make money and it breaks even, like I'm okay because I'm so bursting at the seams. Yeah, I mean, even it's a discussion today. I know a lot of people like it. I think for me, I feel like it's a necessity. Number one, for the STR loophole. Number two, maybe to boost the cash flow because our properties, we didn't talk about it, but like our properties are not getting a lot of cash flow, especially like living in California. It literally doesn't move the needle, right? So all these stories about, oh, cash flow, like get 10 properties, you can retire. We can't do that in California. So it doesn't, even if we get 250 a door, let's say, it doesn't move the needle with living in California. So for us, this active income is to help with the taxes from our W-2 and then also to hopefully boost cash flow. So we could do some more investing, right? But of course, that hasn't worked. Like everybody, all the influencers say, even our active income, our STRs are not giving us enough income because it's been soft, right? To help us with furthering our investments for long term. But I feel like 100% long term is our strategy. All these other strategies have not helped boost that, right, Kenny? And then also we have another. You should tell them about the HELOC, right? Another mistake. I don't know if it's a mistake or not, but we used a HELOC. And now paying that off, whatever cash flow we have right now is used to pay off the HELOC, and we still have a good time to go off of. So yeah, I would say so. That's what I tell myself, to slow down, and be really mindful of. Oh, you mentioned it, right, Kenny? Debt, like you have to pay it off, like right away, right? But I think
Yeah.
we planned that. It just didn't. The market didn't help us to execute it the way we wanted it to, right?
Yeah, the market kind of got softer on us.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, we found that too. When we, those three that I always talk about in St. Louis, we were going through, we had purchased them kind of late summer, and by the time they were ready to rent, it was winter, and we had to carry them through the winter. So a lot of things like that happen that we don't expect, but and like you said, Jen, I mean the little bit of cash flow. I'm happy if we collect all the rents on time each month and pay the mortgages and have some left over to put back into reserves, because you guys know we burned through all our reserves in a couple of years ago. So that, and refilling the buckets always takes longer than we hope for. You
Yeah.
know, my work slowed down a little bit, so I was always like, okay, I can get all these jobs coming up and we'll be able to pay it off quickly, but that hasn't happened. And then when we bought those, the rents did drop a little bit, so the cash flow wasn't even as good as we had hoped for in the beginning. So you have to be ready, and have enough reserves to hang on through that rough spot. And that's something that most people in the community are okay with sharing the challenges. And I think you guys have always done that, and we appreciate that. Um, because I think we learn more from
Hmm.
people's mistakes than their wins most of the time. And you mentioned, I think Jen, you and I talked a little bit at the event about the fact that we're thinking we have to sell our place in California and go live someplace cheaper. Would you ever consider that?
Thankfully with me and Kenny, we kind of I think the same way. I was born and raised in California, San Francisco. All I know is the Bay Area. So it's I hear people talk, they travel and bounce around a lot. That like scares me. Like I can travel, but I this is my home base. My whole family's here. I don't and my some of my relatives are here. I don't know. It just that thought has never even occurred to me because it scares me. And I think Kenny's similar. I mean, he grew up in
Yeah.
Mountain View, right? And he's been in
Oh no,
Milpitas,
Milpitas.
Milpitas
Yeah.
all his life. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
I don't know. I don't know. Kenny and I kind of talk about it if like now our girls are settled, they have friends here. Kenny and I are like people that change is really hard, right? We once we set it and we're comfortable, like we don't like change. So maybe it's an option when they get older and they're off to college and Kenny and I can go somewhere, but I don't think that thought's ever occurred. And so like I think Yasik was talking about it, Mark talks about it, like if we go out we'd be a lot better, but I don't know. It's not even I don't even know about weather elsewhere because I haven't traveled elsewhere, Frank, right? You talk about, I think I heard on your live, if you go to St. Louis, maybe the winters and stuff like that. I don't even know because we haven't even traveled there. We're so closed off like here. But just the fact of moving base and not being comfortable in something new has always, yeah, it's just never even occurred to me. And it scares me more than anything else. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, it seemed like something that has, maybe, I don't know if encourages the right word, but like you said, if your daughters, say they go off to school in some other state and they settle in that other state,
Mhm.
and then maybe
Yeah.
consider it to be near them. But yeah, like you, the biggest deterrent for us is the weather. Every place else is, I mean, we're so spoiled here. We talk about Washington and everybody, it rains so much there, and it might be easier if I didn't have to go out and work in the winter time and I could only work in the good months, then that might be a little easier to handle. But we're pretty spoiled here too.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to move to it. Like, I mean, we're in Milpitas, but it's gotten a lot more dense and a lot more people and crazy drivers. So I would love to go to even like further, like in the suburbs or whatever, to a quieter town. But leaving California, I don't think ever that thought's ever occurred to either of us. And now that the kids are happy, yeah, we'll see. We never know, but I don't think that's in our interest or our horizon at this point. Yeah. If anything, we're trying to make sure people stay in California, like you and Casey. Like we're trying to promote California.
Yeah. Well, Casey was looking at Vegas. Is he still considering Vegas?
I
No,
don't think so.
no, I don't. I think he stopped looking. I think he's staying here for at least the time being.
Okay.
His wife
Yeah.
wants to retire in Millbrae, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's not
So
any less
I don't know.
expensive.
All I know is when I heard Casey wanted to move to California, I was like, "Hey, Casey, let me hang out with your wife. Let me become friends with her to convert her back here."
Uh, maybe just a couple more questions. I don't want to take up your whole day, but um, Jen, I think actually both of you, we talked about you guys starting a channel. The first time we met was actually at the first ORAD event, and we talked about starting a channel. And I think some of your concerns were like exposing your daughters, putting them on camera, things like that. But have you given any more thought? Because I think um, this last question was when your daughters, like when they see this interview here that we're doing today, what do you think they would take away? Because I think, like Kenny said, they're your biggest concern right now, and they could see why you were doing all these crazy things, investing in all these different states and all these, well, a couple of different types of investing. Have you considered any more about starting a channel and just as a record for them of what you guys are going through these days?
If they see this 10 years from now, they'll be like, "Why did you give me so much trouble when I asked you for money?" That's what they'll say. That's what they'll say. But I'll let Kenny go because yeah, I'd be
well,
interested to hear what he says too.
well,
As-
all the starting the channel is Jen's idea. Like I mentioned before we started to you, Frank, that I'm more of the behind the cameras guy. So
Well,
I don't have any thought on it.
he doesn't have any interest or thought or aspirations for it. Like, so for me, um, I always think about it, but the reasons are different. So a couple of like I would say for the last probably 5, 8 years, I've been really trying to collect stories with my family. So I've been also trying really hard to like interview my parents and then like Kenny's dad about his history. Because I feel like they've told us in the past as long as I've been living, but it kind of goes in and goes out. And I really want to record it for myself to remember and then also for my kids, right? So I really want to collect these stories. And I told Kenny this as well. Like, I want to interview him. I want to hear his perspective. And then I want to talk about our deals. I want to talk about parenting because I have a feeling, I feel like these would be really cool to listen to and share with our kids when they're older. And I tell Kenny all the time, like, you're going to forget these deals. Like, you're going to forget the nitty gritty of stuff that we are like in and all the problems and stuff like that. Cause all you think about is success stories, like, oh, they got like 5 rentals or whatever. But all that stuff that got you there, you just kind of lose track of, even as the owner, cause you'll forget, right? You won't remember everything that comes along with it. So I wanted to do like, a series of where like we're talking about our deals, we're talking about our struggles so that like we can show them and even like reflect back in a couple of years and hopefully say, hey, this is where we're at now. And it was really worth it because we struggled so much getting there. So I was trying to see if I could do that and make it private. And then one day, if we're confident enough, share it. But otherwise, it would just be like, stories between the two of us to share with like the kids later on. Right. So I was telling Kenny it's low lift. Like we don't have to be dressed up. Like it's just casual Friday night conversation. Because sometimes when I talk to Kenny, we have really good conversations, but I'm not recording. So I said, Kenny, I'm not going to talk to you from now on. I'll just talk to you during the Friday nights when we do the interview. He's like, okay, hey, that's even better for me. So, but like if we did a series like a YouTube channel, like I don't feel like we have anything worth talking about, honestly. And Kenny and I talked about this. It's the privacy of the girls, number one. But then it's also like Kenny and I are boring people. We have literally nothing to talk about. And we talked about that. Like Zuber says, oh, you've worked for a decade or you've lived for, 30, 40 years or 50 years. You have a passion. And Kenny and I look at each other and we're like, we're not passionate about anything. It's insane. So like we have literally nothing to talk about. And that's also a reason why, I don't even know what we would start a channel about, to be honest, Frank, right? And yeah, we have nothing to talk about. We're not expert in anything. Then it's being consistent, right? And even if we were to post once a month, yeah, we could do it, but we would have nothing to talk about. Then it's like, okay, like I could, you people do the vlogs, right? Video, like, but then I would expose my kids, right? So then that's like, okay, then that's not worth it. And then the only thing I can think of to make sure Kenny does it with me is to do these like chronicles of our struggles and our journey and adventures and keep it private, and then hopefully share with the girls one day, and or share it with family and friends that are interested, but not like public. Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at. Kenny's like a no. And I'm kind of like, how do I make it work that it's just we could still document our journey, which is actually the most critical to me right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, not to put any pressure on you, Kenny, but I think if you guys just start talking about what you're going through day to day, and really you don't even have to involve the kids yet if you don't want to, right? Just like you said, your Friday conversations. It seems like, Cynthia and I have been doing the Saturday calls, and they started out as reviewing the highlights from the Wednesday meetings. And then my head is always random, so I just thought about random topics, right? So we just talk about stuff after we go over the highlights. And that seems to be what resonates with people. It seems like what they like to listen to, because our personal life is pretty boring as well. So I don't really understand why it's attracting that kind of people. Sometimes some of them have mentioned they just like to hear us argue sometimes, but that's a different kind of a show. That's more like Jerry Springer back in the day.
And that got a lot of ratings, right? So
yeah, the highest ratings. But and I think you can even do it faceless, right? And it's not like you need to post it once a month or once a week or anything, just because I think that's why we originally started this channel, was just to document the journey. And like you said earlier, if I ever go back and watch one of my first videos and I realize, wow, we struggled a lot with that property, and now it's stabilized and doing much better. So
yep.
You do forget quickly because you're going through so much every day moving forward. So that's just my point of view. But hopefully your girls will get to see this one of these days and realize how hard you were trying to make things better for them. Then, like you mentioned, then we had them when we were young, but we didn't feel like we were, suffering when we were kids, right? It was just how things were. Yeah. Our parents did work hard and they weren't there a lot, but and then sometimes we go overboard too, right? And spoil our kids because of how we had it. But I think, like I said, we have a lot of similarities. And if you were going to, I know you do have the long-term and short-term rentals, but if someone was considering getting into the short-term side, is there anything that you would like to help them understand before they jumped in?
I think with anything, what's the saying? The idea is easy, right, Kenny? But like executing is actually hard. Simple.
No, it's simple. The idea is simple, but it's not easy.
Yeah. I think I want people to know that. I think that I want people to definitely start. So I'm not saying don't start that strategy. There's a lot of perks to it. There's a lot of benefits, but it's a lot of work, as with anything else. And that's what I would like people to know. That it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time. And just like with anything else, things can go wrong. And it's really a hospitality business. But you can do well, but it's definitely not easy. It's definitely more active than if you were to do a long term, but it's definitely possible, right? So I want to encourage people to definitely look into it and see if that's a strategy. The perks of like the STR loophole, right? Getting boosted cash flow in a shorter amount of time than long term. That's actually definitely there. But it's a hospitality business. So, for Kenny and I, it was worked out being in operations. I deal with people front side all the time. So I told Kenny I don't mind doing it. And he's the numbers guy in the back end. Um, so that's worked out well, but you definitely have that. And now with AI, I would say that's been very helpful as well. Yeah. So that's kind of what I would say. What about you, Kenny?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of work running a short-term rental. Yeah, I think you just if you're going to get into it, you have to understand that you are basically signing up for another job. It's not necessarily a full-time job, but it's another job nonetheless. So as long as you go in knowing that and you're okay with it, then by all means go for it. Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely don't want to deter people from it, but I just want them to have that understanding.
Yeah. I know some people say it's easy for them. They don't spend a lot of time. Maybe they're better operators, and no doubt there's better operators than us, long term, short term, everything. So, but for us personally, I would say that's the biggest advice, that it is another job because it's active, right? And it's a hospitality business. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think you touched on it earlier when you said, if you had more time, you would dig into certain things that might
Hmm.
help you get better at that skill. And that's the same for a lot of us, having that time. And something that I guess we kind of all struggle with, that you guys touched on, is everybody appreciates hearing about our lessons so they can do better on their journey. But sometimes I feel like I'm talking people out of investing because of what we've gone through. So that's been a struggle. Hopefully, it's just helping them understand better. So when they get started themselves, they can avoid a lot of the lessons that we've learned. But
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I, I like, if I were starting, I like to hear, like, because of Oprah, I like to hear people talk and tell me their stories, and the things that they run into is more interesting to me than anything else. Because I feel like if a person is driven and they want to do that strategy and they want to better themselves, um, things like that won't scare me, right? So like, I just think back 10 years ago or whatever. If I wanted to start off, I wanted to do real estate. If people told me, that it's hard or whatever, I'd be like, no, I'm sure I can do it. That's also personality based, that's schedule based. That wouldn't scare me. But hearing their stories of failures, of mistakes, I think that's more valuable. Like, I would take it on and be like, okay, I need to ensure that if I walk this path and I'm ready because I want to, that I'm not going to do that. I would be more grateful to hear that. And that, maybe because of that perspective of just myself and how I would view it, is why I love sharing our failures. I don't know about Kenny, but I love sharing it. That's like the first thing I do. And if I lose money, I'll tell you. If I was stupid and I overpaid a contractor, I'm not embarrassed. I'll tell you. I've done that so many times. And I have a story of why I did it, because I feel like I had to, but I'm sure I didn't have to. Like, I have no worries about telling people every failure of my personal life and my real estate life. Yeah.
I have
What
a
about you,
feeling
Kenny?
I have a feeling it's not as easy for Kenny.
Well, yeah, it's not as easy, but I don't mind admitting it, just because I know it will help somebody. Um, but I mean, I don't really talk much to begin with, so even success stories, I don't even share.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think though, in this community specifically, like Kenny, you just mentioned, you're safe, right? We feel safe
Yeah.
sharing everything, because there hasn't been anyone or any instance where I've heard anybody sharing a challenge and somebody belittled them, or said, "Oh man, you were really stupid to do that." That's just not something that happens here, and I think that's why we consider it a safe space. And I'm sure, like, we wouldn't just go out there, even to our family and regular friends, and talk about a lot of this stuff, because they would judge us.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I
Yeah.
would say, yeah. Yeah, my parents, my parents, it's so funny. Our parents don't know. or like your dad and my parents don't know we're even investing because of that, right? That critique,
Yeah.
and it's kind of funny, right? But all you guys in the community and maybe the YouTube world will know. But actually our parents and our friends don't know what we're doing. It's weird. It's so weird. And it's not, I don't know, it's just not a top, like I feel like when we talk about it, it could end up being like a flex, like to my friends, right? And we don't want that. And we're not even intending to do that. And then with family, anything with money is just weird. Yeah. And then my parents, anything I do, they probably don't support it. So it's pointless, right? So yeah, it is weird. But you know, the ORAC community, Zuber, yeah, definitely a safe place. It's amazing. We've been in other communities. It's so different, right? You're part of that. You're part of the reason why that is, right, Frank? But just the people that are in it are so I don't know, so real, right? And so supportive. You could even tell by like the first ORAD event where we met. Everyone's not like telling how many rentals they own, and when you tell them your story, like the first thing they say is like how they can help you and share stories. And so it's a completely different vibe, yeah, in my opinion. Yeah. And not nichey, which I don't like. And is it called nichey, Kenny? Like groupie or whatever?
Yeah.
Oh, clicky, right? And so like people will just come up to you, whether you have nothing or whether you have everything or whether you're just growing, and they will be interested to talk to you, which is also amazing because sometimes is it clicky, right? It's clicky. So like if they know that they have nothing, some of the meetups I've been to, not all of them, right? There's been other great ones too, but some of them where like you find out like uh they have a lot and they don't want to talk to you. Right, so stuff like that, you don't see that with ORAT. That was like my first impression from the first Vegas event, that I felt right away very comfortable. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, and it hasn't changed even
Mm-hmm.
getting through year 3. So,
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
well, great. I think we ran through my list of questions. I appreciate you guys taking the time to chat with me, and those side conversations, that everybody talks about were the special part of Vegas this year. I mean, they had a lot of great speakers, but really when we get off to the side, you spoke with us for a little while, Jen, and we had some good conversations with, well, some of the guys that brought their wives, right? We got to meet the wives because they are kind of behind the camera too. And I had to kind of chuckle a little bit because I wasn't sure if I was going to get you guys in person or get your avatars. So I'm glad that you're here in person.
You would get me for sure. Kenny, I wasn't sure either
I
until
don't
I
have an
logged on.
avatar.
Okay.
No.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well, thanks again. And we'll look forward to chatting with you out there somewhere this week.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you, Frank.
Thanks again.